Hey, so in this first section, I'm really just going to be talking about the pathway to becoming a teacher here in Hawaii. So for those of you who are still exploring and kind of deciding, is teaching for me and what do you want to teach? One recommendation that we do have is you can try to become a substitute teacher first. The great thing about substituting is that you can try out different schools, you can try out different grade levels, different content areas. And another great thing is it's really flexible. You can work as little or as much as you want. So once you get certified to be a sub, you could work 1 day a year, or I know a lot of people who sub full time and they're working 5 days a week. And so it's a nice employment opportunity to have in your back pocket and to definitely get into your community schools and try to figure out, especially which age group you're most interested in teaching, as well as the specific subject or content area. So when you go onto the slides later, just know that anything that is underlined is a hyperlink to more information. And so I have linked on here the website from the Hawaii Department of Ed about substitute teaching, which will include how do you go about it, how much are you going to get paid, eligibility, things of that nature. Just know that we at UH Manoa's College of Education has also partnered with the Hawaii DOE, and we offer their online substitute teacher certification course fully online year round, and it's a flat rate of $100. So when you click on that link, it'll show you whether or not a current class is available. And if it's not, you can click on the button in the middle to get more information and be notified once the next section is open. Another option is we do have a lot of incentives related to special education. And so if you don't have any experience, you're not quite sure what special education entails and how that looks, we did create a special website, someonespecialforstudents.com, that is specific to Hawaii. And it's really showcasing some amazing special education teachers in the state who are giving some insider looks into what it is to be a special education teacher in Hawaii. It is the highest area of need in the state. You know, they get $10,000 extra a year currently as a pay differential, and there's a lot of tuition funding if you do decide to get licensed in that. So if you're at the stage where you haven't considered it or you're kind of thinking about it but aren't quite sure, we highly encourage you to check out that someonespecialforstudents.com website just to kind of check it out and learn more before you make a decision. Okay. So one of the most important things that I think is good to know at this stage when you're kind of exploring whether or not you want to become a teacher is there's a really important acronym to know. We love acronyms in education. We have acronyms for everything, but this is the most important one at this point. It's called SATEP, and that stands for State Approved Teacher Education Program. And basically what that means is there's a lot of programs in education, but not all of them will get you a license to teach. Only SATEP education programs will allow you to become licensed to become a teacher. And so the way that you know that it's a SATEP program is it has three key components built into it. The first is that it is a program that's specifically designed for teacher licensure. So the whole program is basically pursuing the fact that you're going to get your license to teach. The second really important thing is SATEP programs already had to go through a pre-approval process and get approved by the Hawaii Teacher Standards Board, which is the agency that manages and controls all teaching licenses in Hawaii. So only SATEP programs that have been approved by them are allowed to provide licenses to teach in Hawaii. And then the last thing that you can usually just tell whether or not it's a SATEP program is it going to include that final semester of student teaching? Because not only are you going to be taking courses to learn how to become a teacher, it is a requirement for licensure that you complete student teaching and other field requirements where you're actually practicing teaching before you get licensed. Some important notes to just know at this stage as well is that if you already have a bachelor's degree, then you're technically eligible to take a position before you're licensed, and that is what we refer to as an emergency hire. Just know that from if you decide to go that route and you take a position, the requirement for the state is that you have a 3-year window to actually get your license. So Don't make the mistake of taking a position and waiting and getting really busy and then looking for a position later on because you could run out of time and then you'll be no longer employable for that position after that 3-year window. Another important thing to know is that you have to be in the state in order to pursue your teaching license for that state. And so while some of our programs may be online or have online classes, you cannot be living out of the state and pursue a SATEP program. You need to be here. So if you are in the process of moving, then you can apply to the program as long as you understand that you need to be in the state by the time you start the program. So what do we have here at UH Manoa's College of Education? One thing to note is that we are the largest preparer of teachers for the state, and that means we have the luxury of being able to offer lots of different types of SATEP programs. So instead of just offering one that everybody has to do no matter what your situation or context is, we can provide lots of different options, and the goal is to help you figure out, well, which of these options is going to be the best fit for you in your pathway to becoming a licensed teacher. So the first option is we do have our traditional 4-year Bachelor of Education. And what's really nice about it is you get your bachelor's degree and your teaching certification all in the same program, and you're licensed as soon as you graduate. So we do have that option. We also have wonderful partnerships with all of the community colleges in our state. So for some people, they might want to start at a community college and get those first 2 years an associate's degree under their belt, and then you can transfer to the UH Manoa's Bachelor of Education. And at the end of the day, it's the exact same thing. You get that bachelor's degree and you get your SATEP teaching license. So some options that we have at the undergraduate bachelor's level is we do offer a Bachelor of Education in Elementary Education, which means it covers licensing for kindergarten grade 6. We have an early childhood pathway within that if you specifically want to focus on the really young children, so anywhere from preschool to grade 3. We also have a lot of dual licensure options within elementary. So you could do elementary and special education. You can do elementary and multilingual learners. You can do elementary and Hawaiian language immersion. We also have a dual license at the early childhood and early childhood special education. So if you're interested in working with young children, whether it's early childhood or elementary, we do have quite a few options available. We also offer a Bachelor of Education in Secondary Education, which covers grades 6 to 12, which basically means you can teach in a middle or a high school. When the biggest difference is an elementary and preschool teacher has one class and they teach all of the different subject areas to their class. Once you choose secondary, it's really different because you're choosing your actual subject that you're going to teach, and then you might be teaching it to lots of different classes. So the ones that we offer at the undergraduate level is you can get licensed to teach English, math, science, social studies, music, or world languages. We also offer a bachelor's in special education where you can actually choose which age group you want to teach within special education. So we do have the early childhood, we have the elementary, and we have the secondary level option within the bachelor's in special education. And lastly, we do have a Bachelor of Science, which would provide licensure if you want to be a health and physical education teacher, which can span elementary and secondary. Okay, but what about for those of you who already have a bachelor's degree? And it doesn't need to be in education, it can be in anything. There's also a lot of people who come into teaching and they have already earned a master's degree or even a doctoral degree in their discipline. And so we do have some special SATEP pathway options for those who already have degrees in other fields. And so if you're at UH Manoa, another option that we have very specialized to our UH Manoa majors is within certain majors, we've created these special pathways called BAPS or BAMS. So a bachelor and a post-bac or a bachelor's and a master's. The majors that we're working with is usually in the sciences, it's our math majors, and then we have options for our Hawaiian studies and Hawaiian language majors. So if that's one of you, then you can always reach out and inquire for more information on the BAP or BAM. But for the large majority of people in this category who have bachelor's degrees in other areas, it's really going to come down to two options. You could pursue a 2-year Master of Education in Teaching program where you're getting your master's degree and your SATEP teaching license in the same program, and it'll take 2 years. Or if you want to focus exclusively on getting that teaching license, we do offer a shorter 18-month post-baccalaureate certificate pathway option where you can just get your teaching license after those 18 months. And then if you wanted to come back for a master's degree later, you could always do that as well. And so these are all the different SATEP pathways that we have. So at the post-baccalaureate certificate level, we offer an elementary license, a secondary license, a special education license, and a health and PE, as well as music. So there's a lot of options there. And even within secondary, there's a lot more subjects available at the post-bac level, such as teaching English as a second language, so multilingual learners, art, dance, theater, other subjects like that. At the Master of Education in Teaching level, we offer elementary, we offer secondary, and then we have a dual licensure where you can choose elementary or secondary and also add on special education. And then we have another dual where you can add on Hawaiian language immersion if you can speak Hawaiian. And so those are all the pathways that are available to those who already have a degree. So in a nutshell, these are all the pathways available. So we have 5 kind of different opportunities for earning your state-approved teacher education program and getting your license. And so just know that for the state of Hawaii, you have to have a bachelor's degree or higher, and you have to complete a SATEP pathway. There's no way around this. So even if you had a doctoral degree in biology, you can't just go teach biology in a public school. You'd need to come back and do a SATEP pathway for that. So who's involved? So if you do decide that you want to get licensed, then there's a couple key organizations that you're likely going to be working with. So think of it as starting with your SATEP, right? So first you need to get your license. That's the role of your SATEP. So in our case, that would be our College of Education and all the different pathways I just showed you. Really think of it this way. Your SATEP is responsible for how prepared you're going to be. They have control over the curriculum and the types of things you're going to be learning, as well as the experiences that you're going to have in hopes that by the time you finish your SATEP, the goal is to make sure that you can handle and run a classroom and you're going to enjoy it because you're going to have the skills and things that you're going to need to be a good teacher. And so that's kind of where the SATEP comes in. But what a lot of people don't realize is actually the SATEP is not going to give you the teaching license. Your name is going to go on a completer list after you graduate from the program, and that list goes over to the Hawaii Teacher Standards Board, and they are the ones who are actually going to issue you your teaching license. It is the only state or organization that can manage and do everything related to teacher licensure. And so they manage the requirements and they will also issue you the license and all of those things. So if you're interested or if you're transferring from out of state, so maybe you already have a license in another state, then you would actually want to go straight to the Hawaii Teacher Standards Board to look at whether or not you can transfer that license. You don't have to do another SATEP again. And then lastly, once you get that license, a large majority of our graduates in our state will take that license to go and work in the Hawaii Department of Education. A unique fun fact about Hawaii is we're the only state with a single unified school district. So that makes it really easy in terms of employment because you're all going to the same place. So you go through the Hawaii Department of Education and you can work at any public school in the state. And so they're really going to be managing, anything related to getting your position and which school and things of that nature. So what are some perks and benefits of becoming a teacher, especially in these days? This is going to be specific to if you decide to work in the public education system. It will be different if you decide to go elsewhere. So just keep that in mind. So for our public schools, we have done amazing things here in the state of Hawaii related to our salary. And so you can see here that the salary can range from about 53,000 all the way to six figures. And so we now have teachers who are earning $105,000 a year. Another unique thing about Hawaii is that we have a special initiative in place where we provide salary pay differentials for our hardest need areas and subjects. So I'll kind of show you what those are in a second. And then also keep in mind that on top of the base salary, you could also earn up to $10,000 extra every year if you decide down the road that you would like to pursue national board certification. And Hawaii is one of the states with the largest percentage of nationally board certified teachers. If you do work for the public schools, you're working for the state. And so you can take advantage of all the amazing state benefits as well. Not only are you working on a school calendar, right? And so teachers do get their spring break, their fall break, their summer breaks. But a lot of people don't realize that you also accrue vacation time as a teacher. And so you can take off additional days if needed, based on the fact that you're getting 18 days of paid leave a year. There's also great health plans, pension plans. And so when you get the slides, you can click on this more information link and it'll give you more details based on the Hawaii DOE website information. Also, you're vested under the state retirement system. And so that's a huge perk as well, so that you'll know that as long as you choose this career and you stick with it, then, when you retire, you'll be able to be within the employee retirement system. And then lastly, I do want to give a big shout out to our partners in our teachers union. So the Hawaii State Teachers Association, otherwise known as HSTA, is really the strongest union in the state. They really work hard to take care of the teachers and to really promote the profession. And honestly, a lot of the salary advancements we've had was due to their leadership in getting those things done. So just know you're in good hands and that the HSTA will always be looking to advocate on behalf of teachers in our state. Some other career perks and opportunities that I'd like to share with you that I think are important are really more of that long-term planning if you do decide to make this a career. The first thing that I think is one of the most important things to understand at this stage is there is something called an ATA field. And what that means is, yes, there's no way around it. To become a licensed teacher, you have to go through a SATEP program. But once you go through a SATEP program, there is a lot more flexibility and options if you ever decide to teach something different or new. So, for example, if you started out in elementary and then you decide, you know what, I think I really want to go to middle or high school, then that's possible. You don't have to come back and do another SATEP program like I showed you. You can pursue an ATA field. ATA field options include things like there's specific programs, like even in the College of Education, we have shorter, like 15 to 18 credit graduate certificates that have already been approved as an ATA field. So you do that program, add it to your license. If you feel pretty strongly that you already know that subject area, then if you can pass the praxis exam in that subject, then you can add it to your license, right? So there's a lot of opportunities that happen and kind of open the door after you get that initial SATEP license. So at this stage, you're not really looking for a program that's going to give you everything you ever want to teach. You're really looking for a program that's going to give you the strongest foundation to get your foot through the door. And then after that, you can always expand. Another good thing to know is that while we hope you stay here in Hawaii to teach throughout your entire career, we know that life happens. And if you ever happen to have to leave and move to another state, we are part of the NASDATEC agreement, and that basically is an agreement across all states now that says once you're licensed in one state, if you move, you can transfer your license to the other state. Back when I started teaching, it was only about, I think it was like 34 schools or states that were part of NASDAQ, but now it's all states. So it's really nice. Basically, every state can be slightly different. Like, for example, New York does require a master's degree. So if you don't have one, you would have to get a master's degree as well. But just know you wouldn't have to start over. So you wouldn't have to go to that state and pursue another SATEP program. It's just always just check out what that state is going to require, but you can generally just transfer your license. And a note is that the ATA fields and the portability through the Nasatec, all of that licensure stuff is not through us here at UH Manoa's College of Education. If you have any questions or you want to learn more, you actually need to go to the Hawaii Teacher Standards Board. Lastly, I want to kind of point out some advancement opportunities that you can expect by starting as a teacher. A lot of people don't realize that here in Hawaii, in order to become an administrator, such as a vice principal or principal, you have to have 5 years of teaching experience first. And so some people will come to me saying, well, I want to be a principal. And then I have to tell them, well, you need to get your teaching license and teach first. And so you'll also need a master's degree to qualify for that. But just know the starting salary for administrators in the state is 120,000. It can go quite high. So that's something, if you're interested down the road, you can start with teaching and then pursue that as an advancement leadership opportunity later. Another option is you could be like me, and end up working at the university. And so while I never thought of it initially, it's if you really love this work and you love teaching, maybe one day you want to teach teachers. And so it is possible to work for a teacher education program down the road. And obviously, having that teaching experience first is really important. You would need like a master's degree to work at a community college or as an instructor. And then at Manoa, eventually you need to get a doctoral degree. But these are all great options, and it's good things to know and kind of think about as you're starting to decide, like, is this a career path that I want to pursue? There's lots of opportunities, lots of advancement, and it's a really good time to get into education, especially here in Hawaii, because we are now number 6 in the entire country related to teacher salary. So if you're kind of curious and you're worried about, well, is there going to be a job for me? I will just start out by saying we hire like 1,200 to 1,600 teachers a year, and we're only able to produce about 400 in the state. So there are lots of jobs. Every year in education. And what's really nice is the Hawaii Department of Education now has a public-facing job posting website where at any point in the year you can kind of go in and see what jobs are available. Obviously, the best time to see when jobs are available are usually going to be between like April and August. And then any other time, it's going to be kind of slim pickings, but it'll really show you where the highest areas of need are. Because if there's still positions available after the school year has started, then that means they weren't able to fill it. And so if you're kind of, on the fence between, well, I don't know if I want to go into this or this, then sometimes looking at the job postings will help you get a better idea. Also, the DOE does publish an employment report every year. And what's really nice about these employment reports is it summarizes everyone. Um, yeah, it provides a summary of everyone who got hired that year. And so I've been collecting data over the last 10 years based on all their employment reports so I can kind of show you important trends. So the first is, well, where are they getting hired? At the elementary level, it's typically you're either hired elementary or elementary special education, and both of those have quite a few positions that are open every year. Secondary changes because again, now there's so many things that you can be teaching in secondary. It's a little bit different, and so you'll see that a majority at the secondary level. The highest area of need is special education, followed by your 4 main content areas, which would be your English, your math, your science, your social studies. I also have world languages on there. And then on the right side are a bunch of other examples of other types of positions. Just keep in mind that those positions usually are hiring 20 people or less a year. So it is a little bit harder to find a position. So you'll just kind of want to make sure that they're even going to have that type of position available to you on your island or in your district or what you're interested in. I will also point out that on some of these areas, you'll see a pink box around them. And what that means is those are the fields that have been federally recognized as Hawaii's teacher shortage areas. And why that's important is because it's federally recognized as a shortage area. That's where federal funding comes in if you decide to pursue licensure programs. There's usually going to be more funding available and more incentives available if you're pursuing a high need field. So at the elementary level, that would be special education. And at the secondary level, it's also special education, but it also includes English, math, science, world languages, and Hawaiian language immersion. So if you are interested in any of those fields, just know that you have more job opportunities, more funding opportunities, and it is recognized as a high need field. I will also point out that one of the biggest changes and initiatives here in our state is that we are starting to open up public preschools. And so while the employment reports don't have a separate section for early childhood teachers, I am anticipating that it's coming because if you are interested in early childhood, previously most, if not all, the positions were specific to special education preschool. But now they are opening up a lot of general preschools, and so there are more and more positions becoming available specifically for people who want to teach preschool in a public school setting. Okay, so now we'll move on to the teacher salary. And so this is the Hawaii Department of Education teacher salary entrance scale. And so I'm just going to kind of teach you how to read this and understand what you're seeing here. So first we'll start with across the top are what we call classes. Classes are going to be based on the level of education that you've gotten by the time that you become a licensed teacher. On the left side, going up and down, are what we call steps. Steps are associated with experience. So if you've had previous experience, then they would take that into account when you decide to take a job in the Hawaii Department of Education. So what you'll see there is there's my favorite acronym, and it says no SATEP. And that means you are actually an emergency hire. So if you take a position to teach and you are not licensed, you are going to be placed on that step 4, which is basically what we use for emergency hires. But once you actually get licensed, you would actually skip step 4 and go straight to step 5. So if you've never taught before, then most people are going to start on step 5. If you've had previous teaching experience, whether you've taught as a teacher in a private school, or they will count military service. The Hawaii Department of Education will count up to a maximum of 6 previous years of experience towards your starting salary pay. Subbing doesn't count, being an EA doesn't count. It really only counts if you were the lead teacher of record. And so some people go to teach internationally, and as long as you were the teacher, you can't be like a teacher's aide or a teacher's assistant, then they will count up to 6 years of previous experience. So for our case, most people that come through our Bachelor's of Education program or our BAP program are going to enter class 2 with the bachelor's degree, and they're just going to start fresh on step 5. And so people who graduate from our bachelor's degrees are typically coming in at this $53,000 starting salary mark. And then for those who already have a bachelor's degree, the really nice thing is our post-bac still falls under the same category as our Master of Education in Teaching. So regardless of which one you pick, you would enter as class 3 because class 3 means a bachelor's plus 30 credits or a master's degree. And then you would be starting out, if you don't have previous teaching experience, at this $57,000 starting salary scale. I do want to point out that there's a lot of other certificates and programs and pathways out there for people who have a bachelor's degree. Most, if not all of those, will actually enter you at class 2 because it does not meet this plus 30 credits. So you just kind of want to be mindful when you're exploring your options because you are going to get paid more if you come in through like our post-bac certificates or a master's degree program. There are no doctoral degree SATEPs that I'm aware of in the state, so most people are going to be coming in at that class 2 or class 3. But what happens after you start teaching? So once you enter and you get your first teaching position in the Hawaii Public Schools, then all of a sudden the teacher pay scale gets a lot bigger and more complex. But you'll see here that the same thing applies. Across the top are classes, which is based on your level of education, and then up and down will be your steps, which is based on your years of service. But you'll see that they've kind of reversed it. And so what I've done here is I'm actually showing the 2026, 2027 pay scale because that is when they are finally starting this brand new class 8 scale, which has so that all teachers in the state are going to be eligible to move up in pay. And how do you move classes? You do it through professional development credits. And so the best way that I can kind of explain this is let's say you already have a bachelor's degree and you decide to do our post-baccalaureate certificate in education, then you would enter class 3, step 5 down here. And you can already see that there's been a pay increase. So starting 2026, it's already up to $59,000. And then you decide, you know what? I'm teaching and I never want to take another class in my life. Like, I'm not going to do any professional development. I'm not going to go back and get my master's. I'm not going to do any of it. Then what will happen is you're going to stay here on class 3 and eventually you're going to move up over time and it gets negotiated by the teachers union and their negotiations with their contracts. And so you stick with it long enough, you can cap out at $85,000 a year. But the beautiful thing about this pay scale is actually you have full control to get all the way to the right of the pay scale. And the way you do that is for every 15 credits of professional development you take. So whether you do come back for a master's degree or a graduate certificate with us at UH Manoa, then those credits could be counted towards a reclassification. And what's nice is you want to reclassify after your 15th credit. You don't want to wait until you finish the degree. As soon as you hit your 15 credits, submit it for reclassification and bump to the right of the pay scale. And so everybody's path is going to be different. So, you might take a couple classes here and then you've stayed with it a couple years and you move up and then you take a couple more classes and now you're moving to the right again. So everyone's path is going to be different, but just know that your goal is to hit that top right corner of the screen where you can be making over $100,000 on a 10-month employee contract, which means you get your summers off. And you'll see here that if you reclassify, you can actually earn $85,000 way earlier in your career than if you had just kind of stuck with it and waited for those pay increases to come in through steps. I'll also say that you don't have to come back and get master's degrees or doctoral degrees or anything. There's actually a lot of professional development credits offered through the DOE, through their own professional development system as well as the union sometimes actually negotiates to build professional development into the school calendar so that all teachers are earning some kind of credit over time. And so you just want to be mindful it and mix and match and grab what you can as soon as you have 15 credits, submit it for reclassification. Now, here's a caveat though. All reclassifications have to be approved by your administrator. So you always want to reach out to your own administrator before you pursue a program and just make sure that they feel that it's going to be approved for reclassification. But for the most part, as long as it's an education, you just can't go rogue and take something completely different and try to use it. But always check with your administrator and then work your way towards the right of that pay scale. So really, your earning potential for all teachers, no matter what you're teaching in the Hawaii DOE, is $105,000 at this point. But like I mentioned earlier, we have some really unique pay differentials that our state is giving for people who are willing to teach in the highest need fields or the highest need geographical areas. And so the highest paying differential is for special education. So if you are a special education teacher and you're in a special education position where you're the care coordinator and doing the IEPs and all the care coordination, then no matter where you are on that previous pay scale that I showed, you would be able to tack on $10,000 a year on top of that. If you can speak Hawaiian and you take a position in a Hawaiian language immersion school, then you can get $8,000 extra a year. And then the last four are based on the actual geographical area. And so you can earn anywhere from $3,000 to $8,000 more, depending on the complex area that you're teaching in. And so the complex areas, if you don't know, are basically labeled by the name of the high school. So if you're kind of interested is will I get paid more for the area that I'm living in? Find your local high school or nearby high schools and just know that if you teach in that area, then it's likely that you could get that differential. The craziest thing that people from other states always reach out to me to learn more about is the fact that not only have we put these pay differentials in place, but they are stackable. And so a special education Hawaiian language immersion teacher out in Waianae can earn $26,000 extra a year. And so these are great incentives, especially as you're exploring, well, what are you going to teach and where are you going to teach? Just know that these differentials are in place. Keep in mind, they are dependent on renewals of state budgets every year. It got started right before COVID happened, but it's been consistent every year since. So you can always refer to the Hawaii DOE website for the most up-to-date information. Okay, and I'll stop there and then we'll move on to our next section, which is the program overview.